What would you say are the major sectors on both sides that are going to benefit from this FTA?
Look, I think number one, automotive. Number two, financial services, uh, digital services, um, healthcare and pharma, and needless to say, the Scotch whiskey.
Yes. Excited about that one.
Yes, education,
Yes.
training. So I think it spreads a lot of different sectors: textiles, agri-tech. And if I keep thinking, I'll just come up with more and more sectors.
Yeah.
But like I said, the details have to be unraveled. And the sector mapping has to be very clear. What is the value addition that each nation provides to each other to enhance the trade through this FTA into those sectors? And I think that is work to be done.
Welcome to an exciting episode of the Policy Musings podcast by BharatGAIN, where today we're diving into the UK-India Free Trade Agreement that was signed in July this year. This agreement is poised to create massive opportunities for both nations, strengthening economic ties, opening new markets, and fostering collaboration across sectors like trade, technology, and services. The potential impact is immense, and as both countries continue to push for a brighter, more interconnected future, the FTA stands as a pivotal moment in their bilateral relationship. To help us understand the far-reaching implications of this agreement, we're joined by a distinguished expert, Dr. Kishore Jayaraman, OBE, the current India chair of the UK-India Business Council. And a board member since 2016, Kishore has been at the forefront of promoting business and economic relations between the UK and India, bringing years of experience from his leadership roles in GE and Rolls-Royce to the table. In today's conversation, Kishore will help shed light on the negotiations behind the FTA, the future of the trade relationship, and how companies from both sides can benefit from the opportunities presented by this agreement. Welcome back to BharatGAIN's podcast, Policy Musings. And today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Kishore. Welcome to the podcast. I am personally very excited to speak to you. Considering the recent developments, I think it's the perfect time for us to speak. Considering you're the India chair of UK IBC, a very important organization in the larger scheme of UK-India relations, uh, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely a pleasure to be here. Correct.
So, Dr. Kishore, before we get into the subject that we want to talk about today, which is of course the UK-India FTA, which is a massive development for both countries, I just thought it would be nice if we could contextualize the conversation a bit. You had an incredible journey yourself, working with a number of companies from the UK in the past as well. So, if you could tell us a bit about your journey and, of course, the very special OBE that you have and how that came about. I think that'll be very exciting. And then perhaps we can talk a bit about UK IBC and the immense work they do.
Perfect. Look, I've been privileged. I spent my life with 37 years with two great companies. I think my first journey was with GE for 23 years and then with Rolls-Royce for about 13 and a half years. And I think through this journey, it was high technology. It was lots of services. It was global, multi-sectoral. So it's the gamut of things I've had an opportunity to experience. Apart from the multiple roles, the multiple people, the multiple cultures, the global the world truly became flat through my 37 years of experience. And along the way, I'm very privileged that I got the OBE for trade and economy growth services for the UK-India corridor. And this happened because of a few initiatives that I was part of that came to fruition, which will enhance the development of those sectors, defense in particular, between UK and India. And so it was a privilege because I got this honor from the Queen. Wow. And it was bestowed on me by the King.
That's amazing. I think this might be the first and last time I speak to an OBE. So very exciting. And thank you so much again for being on the podcast.
It's a pleasure.
So, you mentioned you worked with British companies. So, you slowly now transitioned into being the India chair of UK IBC.
Yes.
So now in this new role, it'd be great if you could educate us a bit on this evolving relationship and
Yeah.
the role UK IBC plays in it.
So I've been the UK IBC India chair for the last 3 years now.
Oh, okay.
And I've also been a global board member of UK IBC for the last 10 years.
Okay, so you've had a law association with UK IBC.
Right. So when I moved on from Rolls-Royce, it was absolutely logical for me to assume almost a more, what should I say, hands-on role as the chair of UK IBC India. And I think the rest is history. Over the last 4 or 5 months, I've been very actively involved with UK IBC and have been through the journey of FTA as it evolved over the past 6 months, 8 months. And, I think UK IBC as an organization is there in order to create the industry to government to academia connect. Because at the end of the day, we work with a lot of universities in the UK. We provide them with the abilities to participate in the Indian ecosystem. We take a lot of the Indian companies and help them to understand and participate in the UK ecosystem. We work with a lot of the big financial services organizations and try to figure out how do they reach into the Indian government versus how does the Indian government understand their challenges, and vice versa for the Indian companies and the UK government. So I think there's a lot of this interface that happens that we bring. But bottom line is this: I think it is about the last mile connectivity for industry on the UK side and the Indian side. A lot of times there's miles to go between the cup and the lip. And the last mile connectivity is what makes us the relevant organization to make the lives of industry easier when they try to grow outside of their home countries, either in the UK to India or India to UK.
And how much easier does the FTA make life now for those companies?
I think the FTA is, look, there was clarion calls along the way. When I look at the last 20 years, start with 1991 in India, and then you go through it. You had Make in India pick up steam in 2014. Then you had Atmanirbhar Bharat. Then you had Viksit Bharat. So the clarion calls were always there. And the trade has been growing between UK and India. It's at about 40 billion pounds. And I think it is a very healthy trade that happens. But now there are always this little bit of how do I make sure participation, appreciation, understanding, and trust and transparency, all these things, how do you bring it together so that it's not only sustainable, but it's scalable? And I think that's where the FTA comes into it. The FTA provides that platform where there is trust and transparency, and there is an ability to take this and develop it into areas which are still not developed. The FTA is the beginning. It is not the end.
Okay.
That's the way I look at the FTA.
Absolutely. And we will get into the future a bit more. But before that, I would like to go slightly into the past because, for those of you who don't know in the audience, an FTA is an extremely complicated agreement to come to. And they're far and few for India. So, what were the kind of roadblocks on the way to kind of getting this FTA signed? Because I'm sure there were a lot of things which either side didn't want to give into, or either side wanted and the other perhaps didn't want to give. And that's the nature of these agreements as well. And so, what were the major roadblocks on the way?
I think the major roadblocks, as you know, UK had governments that were changing,
Yes.
right? I mean, that was one of the biggest things. India had very stable government on this side. And the UK governments went through a sort of a re-emergence phase, for lack of a better term, in trying to become a very stable single government in play, which is there with the current government. But the important thing is that this is the fastest FTA that's ever been signed.
Okay, I did not know that.
That is one of the very, really quick things that happen. It might have conversations might have started a long way back. But if you look at it, it is post-COVID when this pace built up. And with the pace, it came to a conclusion as the second fact of the matter. And it transcended governments. It transcended a lot of challenges. There are always, things that are very important for each and every nation. India has their sort of limitations as to what they can say, put it under free trade, and what we cannot put under free trade. And similar for the UK, right? But you have to figure out an answer through all those mazes. And I have to say, the teams that were involved in this, and I happen to know all these team members also, and it's like they've been phenomenal in the way they have negotiated, the way they have stayed the course, the way they have managed expectations, and finally seeing it to the end. And I think this you'd probably be completely wrong if you said there were one or two people who did this. There's thousands of people who brought it. But then there are a few top 50 people that made the whole difference in this whole doc. So I think it is a phenomenal success.
No, absolutely, and kudos to all the people who worked on getting this, agreement done. And what really amazed me, as I was preparing for today's interview as well, and I was reading some of the reports and news articles about the FTA negotiations, was the support from the British government. The current government, even before they were in power, when they visited India, I think that was in 24.
Yeah.
They actually showed their support that even if we don't come into power, we will support an FTA coming through. And they actually accepted a lot of the things that had already been agreed with the previous government, which, aided in the pace of agreeing this FTA.
Absolutely correct.
So amazing to see, all sides come together to make this possible.
Yes.
Now that we, kind of have this signed, one thing that even I would like to understand, and I think the audience would be very interested in, is when do things start coming into play? Like, when do the tariffs go down? Have they already gone down, or will the duties slowly over time be reduced? I know in certain sectors like alcohol, it's planned to be over time. So reductions will happen over time.
Yes.
But how does it work overall? Like, is there still something else that needs to happen, or are we already with the FTA in effect?
So the first step was there was something which was a FTA primer sort of thing that came out.
This is the one that came in May.
That came in May.
Yeah.
Then the signing happened very recently.
Yeah.
And after the signing, it's a 2,000-page document, I'm told, which I've not seen.
Yeah.
But it is in principle 2,000-page document that is got all the details.
Yes.
Right? And after the signature, in Indian side, it's a little bit easier because it's already done. Right? We can start tomorrow morning and it's done.
Okay.
But in the UK side, there's a process. And the process takes about 7 to 12 months.
Okay.
So the implementation starts 7 to 12 months. But it starts today in terms of understanding, appreciation, the nuances of it. How do we put an implementation plan together? This is a great time for us to understand that and put a plan in place. And I think that's the space where UK IBC can. UK IBC is looking at the document in very much detail, understanding it, appreciating it sector to sector, looking at what's in it for the industry, connecting with the industry, making sure they understand it, understand the concerns, understand the criticisms, and understand the kudos. And then start driving the behavior for updates.
So you weren't exaggerating when you said it's just the beginning and not the end.
Absolutely.
The work just starts now for you guys in a way.
Any more such successes?
So, FTAs, they're, in my mind, very Adam Smith in nature. You look at what each country does better and you kind of try to figure out, what I do better than the other country and what can I provide them and what should I take from them.
Yeah.
So, what would you say are the major sectors on both sides that are going to benefit from this FTA?
Look, I think number one, automotive. Number two, financial services, digital services, healthcare and pharma, and needless to say, the Scotch whiskey.
Yes. Excited about that one.
Yes. Education.
Yes.
Right? So I think it spreads a lot of different cities, textiles, agri-tech, and if I keep thinking, I'll just come up with more and more sectors.
Yeah.
But like I said, the details have to be unraveled. And the sector mapping has to be very clear. What is a value addition that each nation provides to each other to enhance the trade through this FTA into those sectors? And I think that is work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But it covers a lot of scenarios. Then there's the defense roadmap that's coming to play, the industrial strategy that's in play. If you look at it, there are plans being put together all the way from here up to 2047.
Till Viksit Bharat.
Till Viksit Bharat. Right? And I think the beauty is that the confidence in the agreement comes into play by the fact how the agreement got to where it got. It got to where it got to because, like I said in the beginning, the trust and the transparency and the ability of this agreement to transcend gouge.
Yeah.
So it becomes a play for two nations and not to gouge.
Wow.
That's the beauty of it.
That's very well put. Thank you. But specifically, when you mention financial services, I know the UK is kind of a hub for financial services. So hopefully, we'll see a lot of companies bringing those expertise to India. Is that something that is already in the works, or is that something that now, as the agreement
Conversations are started.
Okay,
Conversations are started, but then we have to understand things better.
fair enough.
I come back to that because there was a euphoria of the signing.
Yeah.
Then it is the details that matter,
Absolutely.
right? And the implementation with the details and the experiences that evolve is going to matter. And that's where I fall back on the last mile connectivity.
Even on higher education, since you mentioned it, and as I was doing research today as well, I saw that they're projecting a huge jump already for next year's admissions in the UK, which had fallen actually from 23 to 24. They're actually expecting a big jump now, thanks to the FTA in admissions from India to the UK. So that's wonderful. And as someone who's studied in the UK myself, very exciting. So shout out to the University of Essex. But coming back to the
We are our members.
Yes, perfect. So coming back to the FTA, along with the FTA, there's also something else that caught my eye, which was the signing of the Double Contribution Convention, which is basically that allows Indians that are working in the UK and people from UK who are temporarily working in India not to contribute towards social security and things like that. So do you think that's going to have a big impact as well? And like, how does that actually kind of work?
Look, it's always been a point of challenge
Uh-huh.
because it's a money that goes into a system that probably the individual gets to use after a long period of time. And if the individual is there for a very short period of time, the question always is, what's in it for me? Right? It addresses the point which was more like a sore thumb that was out there in terms of the mobility. And I think with this little bit of a barrier relief, I think it enhances the mobility very much.
Yeah.
And it shows the trust on both sides again to say, look, what we think is fair to both sides, we should do it for the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the messaging that comes out of it. The amount in aggregate is probably a lot.
Yeah.
But the amount in an individualistic basis is not so much.
But it feels like a lot.
Bottom line is, the bottom line is, for everybody, every rupee counts, every pound counts.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good initiative. I think it's a very good start for many more things to come.
Yeah, I think it really smoothens the process of traveling working between countries as well.
Exactly. And there's a lot more to do. That's a lot more to do in the space of mobility.
Yeah.
And I think, we will be looking at it as UKIBC on the mobility front as to what more can the two governments do.
There's another lovely part that I saw regarding mobility, which was, I think, 18,000 visas for, people in, say, yoga instruction and chefs from India for the UK as well. So I think that should be interesting for everyone involved.
Becoming skill-based, is it?
Yeah.
Becoming more skill-based, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Right, and it makes it very relevant. I think at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say, what is the outcome of any action that happens? What is the outcome?
Well, absolutely.
And if the action is good and the outcomes are measurable, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, and that is what FTAs are all about, people. Win-wins. Just kind of coming back to something you mentioned earlier, the future. We have this agreement, probably get the rules in, and both sides will come to start implementing it in a year, let's say. But what else can UK and India do together? What does the future hold for this partnership?
I think the future is about co-creation.
Okay.
It's about co-development. It's about co-manufacturing. It's about what should I say? It's the ability to create IP together, right? If India wants to get to Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is absolutely essential for India to get to Viksit Bharat, If UK wants to scale up, if UK wants to create more jobs, the idea is yes, they have the capabilities and capacities to build in the EPSA, but India also has an even larger capability and capacity base. Now, if you leverage these two and create technologies, right? If you're able to come together with creation of these technologies that is transferable to the rest of the world, I think it's a wonderful, scalable, sustainable model that comes out. So, one word that in my mind always that has been there is co-creation.
Wonderful. As a final, I think we've covered a lot in this conversation. I just had one, final question for you. It's more not actually a question. It's more like, advice from you that I'm seeking, not only for myself, but for companies on both sides. So, what would you say today to companies, people from India or organizations from India which are looking to do business in the UK, and vice versa, any organizations in the UK who might be watching this or might be reading about the FTA and thinking about entering India? What advice would you give to both sides?
Number one, I think the fear of the unknown need not be there. Okay? Number two, the devil's in the details, so understand the details. Number three is a 1 week trip back and forth does not help one understand the great nations. Spend time, feet in the ground. I think it'll be a very, very pleasant journey, a journey that will enable companies to become global, a journey that will enable companies to learn, and it is a journey that will enable companies to sustain. So I think it's a great opportunity. I would not miss this opportunity. I would figure out avenues, ways, and means of learning and then growing.
Wonderful. I think that is such a poignant note to kind of end this conversation on. So thank you so much for your time, Kishore. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in yet again for another episode of Policy Musings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karam. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and look forward to growing the trade and economy between UK and India together. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.